This is the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network.
Hey everybody! As you may have noticed, this seems like a repeat episode, so those of you who have been Patreon subscribers will have already listened to this week's episode on Blumhouse's Fantasy Island.
Bum, bum, bum!
Now, of course, lest you think we're given a double dip, this is very similar to our episode on The Perfection. So, patrons, you'll notice that there's a little gift waiting for you.
Which is in the form of an audio commentary on Rennie Harlan's Deep Blue Sea to pair with our full-length episode on Deep Blue Sea 3.
Now, Trace, I don't know if you remember recording this episode. I had to go back and listen to it because I remembered nothing, except for the fact that I was super fucking mad at this movie.
Yeah, no, so I actually wasn't going to re-listen to it until you said you were, and I was like, fuck, I guess I got to be prepared for this little intro we're doing. I'm glad I re-listened to it. I will say, everyone, if you take a drink every time I or Joe say, here's the thing, you'll be dead by the end of the episode.
Much in the way that we talked about if you did a drinking game every time the characters in the movie said the word fantasy,
yes!
You would also be dead.
But yeah, no, basically, this episode would have come out kind of around the time we were in the midst of a bunch of film festivals, and it was kind of our quote-unquote break for this season, and we just thought we'd keep that going this year, and to give everyone who isn't a patron a taste of what being a patron is like.
What better way to do a meta commentary on vacation month than to take a literal vacation for a week?
Into Fantasy Island. And it also has, if you haven't seen the film, it does have queer content in it that is quite explicit. I mean, not porn explicit, it just means that there is a gay character.
Speedo bulges.
Speedo bulges, gay indentured servants, that's really fun.
Mike Vogel in a thankless role.
He's not even credited, I don't think, until the end credits. Wait, no. He is in the opening credits, I'm sorry, but he is not promoted in this film at all.
No.
The structure, so when we recorded this back in February, because yeah, this is from a pre-COVID time, so you may hear some things that are like, oh, that's unusual, and it's just because we weren't quarantining yet. Or I'm sorry, we weren't sheltering in place yet.
Oh man, do you remember the time where we had that conversation about judging movies that come out on VOD differently because, they just fall to a different standard?
Oh god. Those were the good old days, Joe.
I just cried a little.
Our Patreon format is a little bit different, although when we recorded this, we knew that it was going to be on the main feed one day just because of the queer character of, spoiler alert, Tattoo. So we did mimic this like a normal episode, and so it should just kind of go right through. If you haven't seen the movie, we would, as always, still recommend you check it out, even though neither one of us, well, Joe really didn't like it. I thought it was bad, but entertaining, despite its near 2-hour runtime. But if you really, really are just so averse to watching it, it's okay, because we still do our regular plot summary and we comment as we go.
So, without further ado, we'll send you off to Blumhouse's Fantasy Island, and because it is a Patreon episode, you won't hear what we're covering next week, so we'll just tell you off the top. Folks, we're going to close out Vacation Month with a little trip into the Canadian woods to talk about what keeps you alive.
Yes, and this is a film, it was released in 2018, directed by Colin Minahan, who is one of the guys, he's one of the Vicious brothers who directed Grave Encounters, but it is also very explicitly queer, and I have only seen it once, but I really liked it, and I would highly recommend that all of y'all check it out.
Yeah, so without further ado, nope, I already said that.
Yeah, I was saying, we already a dude. Keep that in.
So basically, enjoy the fucking episode. Clearly, we need a vacation.
Yes. See y'all next week.
Welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking 1-star Yelp reviews, we're talking Black Christmas eye goo, and we're talking Speedo bulges. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking the most overstuffed with twists third act I might have ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We're talking Fantasy Island, y'all.
How many fantasy references do I want to make where I just say, my fantasy is that this movie doesn't exist?
A, that's lazy. B,
I know. As lazy as this movie, bam!
the entire time I was like, you only need one drinking game for this movie, and it is take a drink every time they say the word fantasy. It is insane.
It is egregious.
Like, call it a desire or something. I don't know. It's really silly. And listeners, up front, I'll tell you right now. So Joe really hates this movie, like most people seem to have felt this weekend. I am pulling a grudge on y'all and saying that I don't think it's good, but I also don't think it's that bad because I found myself plenty entertained by this movie.
For context here, I'm gonna say I gave this movie an F. Like, this is a 1-star movie for me. I don't think it's like the worst movie that I've ever seen in my life. I'm just so frustrated with the studio that put this out, the way this was marketed, the way it was written. It's so lazy that I just got increasingly more angry at it.
That is understandable. And honestly, I've been a Blumhouse defender for years because I felt like even though they have put out some shit, like they've put out movies that, more often than not for me, like they have more hits than misses. But man, the last couple months, like, I mean, again, we're looking at this and Black Christmas, like, I don't know what they are doing at all. It's like they just thought, oh, we have Halloween Kills coming out, so we're not going to pay attention to anything else we're making. That's what this feels like.
Yeah, it feels like we're only going to give these remakes or these adaptations a very small budget, and we're just going to ask them to work with it. And yeah, like, we'll just focus all of our attention on Halloween because we know that that's a guaranteed moneymaker.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned this maybe it was in the Black Christmas episode where I was like, I feel like they used to balance like looking for good creativity and also like balancing the budget very well. But now I feel like they're strictly business based where it's like they only care about the money and quality is not really a factor in their decision making process.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. And the problem is that even if these movies don't perform well, like this movie did not perform particularly well, but it's already made back its production budget, so now it's just got to make back that advertising budget.
Well, we have to have the sequel with Tattoo, obviously.
Oh my okay, so we are spoiling this movie, which you should thank us for because we are doing you a favor.
Okay, this movie is long as fuck. It's 110 minutes long, and it does not need to be that long, but
no.
the stupid as fuck third act of this movie, for me, makes it worth a recommendation because it is so stupid.
I don't even know where to go with it because by the time you finally get to it, I was so tuned out that even though it starts to get kind of interesting because it's so stupid, at that point, I just wanted it to end because I was like, why is this 110 minutes? No.
Well, because there's 4 twists in the further act.
But like, not even satisfying twist, not even good twist, not even clever twist,
okay.
Trace.
I mean, we're getting into that. I will tell you, this Lucy Hale twist makes no sense based on what we have seen before in this movie. No. But it was so funny to me. I wish they had let her go full Jill Roberts, like balls to the wall crazy, because that would have made it better. But this movie thinks it's good, and had it leaned further into camp for this last half, which you can do because you're basing it on like a late 70s, early 80s TV show, which is, if you watch it now, very silly. It just doesn't want to do that. And that's, I mean, again, I gave this a 2.5. This is a C for me because at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. Like all the ingredients, given what this movie has, what's going for it does feel exceptionally lazy. Like if you gave this to an indie studio filmmaker, you'd have a better movie out of this. But I think it's competently directed. I think the performances, based on what they're working with, are very good. I mean, maybe very good is a stretch, but like they're all fine. Even though I think Ryan Hansen and his brother, I don't know the actor's name, but even though I think that their parts are obnoxious as fuck.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They're selling it.
Honestly, the worst actor in this movie for me is Michael Pena. I think he is just bored throughout this entire movie.
Oh yeah, he is there for the paycheck.
But, yes, the script is really bad. I don't know why they didn't... There's 3 screenwriters on this movie. I don't know why they didn't rewrite it. And the editing, I mean, again, even with this Lucy Hale twist at the end, like, I was just like, something's missing here. I don't know what is happening.
I mean, when you say there's 3 screenwriters on this, I am not at all surprised because this feels like a bunch of slapdash attempts to make this work shoehorned into a single film.
Well, you know what it's like? It's like they each had one act, but they didn't read the other acts before they started on theirs.
No. It's called They Each Had Three Separate Films, and then they pick and chose different aspects of it, and then they were like, know how we're going to explain all this? A motherfucking stupid twist.
Yeah. So, okay, well, let's go into some basic... I mean, again, we're covering this like the Monday after it came out, so there's not much to go off of, but the studio, of course, we're referring to is Blumhouse. Or I guess, Sony Pictures releasing with a production credit by Blumhouse. So, there's
because
Sony...
Blumhouse never actually releases anything, right? They only produce and then they release in partnership.
I think so.
Because they do a lot of Universal, right?
Yes, it's a lot of Universal. But they have that Blumhouse Tilt, which is like their real indie section. And I don't know if that's a production company or distribution company, but they did like Upgrade.
Okay, well, feel free to let us know, listeners.
Yeah, I'm not going to look it up now. I don't care.
No.
Anyway, made for a budget of $7 million, which, again, given that budget, this movie looks good. It's mostly island shit that's overcast all the time, but, it's there.
It's like we rented 2 houses, and then we shot in some jungle.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was never really sure of the geography of the island, and there's this whole bit.
No.
And here's your editing snafu. So, Lucy Hale and Portia Doubleday, they spend all night, quote unquote, like that is what they say, getting away from the bunker to wherever Michael Rooker is taking them. And then they're like, wait, we should go back. And it's like 5 minutes later, and they're back at the bunker.
Oh, yeah. And then later on, when they all meet up at the hotel and they realize, oh, we've got to go back to the caves, it also takes them like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, is it in the backyard of the hotel?
I have no fucking idea. Again, everyone, we've discussed geography of like horror or film quite a bit recently, and I'm really starting to notice it more when it's not done properly. This is an example of that.
Yeah, it's because it feels like this isn't an island. It feels like it's just a couple of sets. And because they don't take the time or the effort to actually show you, like, do we even get an overhead shot of the island at all at any point?
Well, no, the end, whenever the plane is coming back, I think that's when we get it. But maybe that's just over water.
It's like a circle of the lagoon. Come on.
I know.
I'm thinking like Jurassic Park style helicopter intro where you get to see it and then you fly over it so you can get a sense of like, there's a river. Oh, there's the drop-off point where Michael Rooker's gonna fall.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, Michael Rooker's one character too many in this movie.
Oh, God.
So, okay, yeah.
Him in that fucking wig.
But as you said, this movie has made its money back 3 times that money, in fact, because as of Monday, 4 days of release, it has made $14 million domestically and $7.6 million overseas for a worldwide total of $21.6 million against that $7 million budget.
Yeah, so these idiots get to laugh all the way to the bank because even if it only makes another $10 million domestically and like 15 internationally, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie's going to make a lot of money at the end of the day, but like they're not losing money on it.
I think what makes me more mad about this is that they will they'll just wash their hands and call it a day. But we've got movies like this being made, and if they give this a sequel, I'm going to call fucking foul because the fact that this is doing this poorly and Happy Death Day to You does fine comparatively, but not comparatively to the first film. Like, I will cry bullshit so hard on that they're not giving us a third one of those movies.
Yeah, I feel very confident in saying that we will never see another iteration of this.
That leads me into our reception. We're looking at a 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is worse than The Grudge, y'all. Oh, but actually, let's talk about this too. So this is only on 49 reviews because they did not screen this for critics.
No, they did not. Oh my God, did they try to keep this away from critics?
But they also didn't do Thursday night previews for the public, at least not in Austin where I live and not in most major markets.
Nope, they didn't do it here. When was the last time? Do you remember a film that hasn't had a Thursday night screening in like 5 years?
I've never heard of that. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But again, that's what I'm saying though. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 47%. So it's like some people are enjoying this movie fine.
Yeah.
Because I see why critics don't like this movie. Your average moviegoer...
Yeah, it's fine.
I think it's fine. Like, no one's going to look at this thing. Again, knowing what we know about this film industry, about this film and the industry, like, they're not going to walk away from this movie like, oh, it was so sloppy.
No, it'll be like, I didn't love this or I didn't like that. But they're probably like, yeah, you know what? It was kind of fine. It was more or less what I expected. That Thursday night no screening is so telling because the only reason they didn't do that, like, they could have made a little bit of money, probably not a ton. They didn't want critics to be able to go and publish the reviews by Friday morning.
That is true, but here's the weird thing. So there was a secret press screening in Austin Thursday night. I was not invited. But some people I know were, but it was not any of the bigwigs. Like, it wasn't like a major critic writing for a major publication. Well, I'm not going to say it anymore because I don't want to make this kid feel bad.
Sure.
But I was like, that's really weird. But even that being said, the embargo still didn't lift. And y'all don't know what an embargo is. Embargo is basically if you're a critic and you go see a movie like on Monday and you write your review Monday night and the studio's like, okay, that's fine, but you cannot post your review until like Wednesday at noon. That's the embargo. The embargo for this movie was Friday morning at 11 a.m. my time. So that's noon your time.
It's basically about an hour before the first screening would have occurred.
Not really. Ours were, it would have been like when the first screenings are happening at 11 a.m.
So crazy.
I have never heard of anything like this. And this movie was not screening at a draft house near me or a Flix Brew house, so I had to go to a fucking AMC. I mean, my privilege is showing, but...
Yes, it is. We didn't get press invites to this movie, and we had to go to a shitty theater.
I don't care as much about the press screening, although that wasn't even Thursday night. It was 3 p.m. on Thursday, which is also really weird.
Yeah, my press screening. So I did get an invite, but it was only because I sought it out. Like, I asked my press contact. Yeah, it was at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. Like, normally they'll give you like a 10 a.m.
Yeah.
But it'll be several days before, or they'll give you like a Wednesday night. And here it was like, no, we want to make sure that people can't come to this.
Yeah, I've literally like never seen something like this before. And I'm sure it's happened, but like in this day and age with how this business works, I've just never seen this. Now, our Letterboxd score, though, we're looking at a 1.9 out of 5 from Letterboxd users. And that's what I'm saying, though. Again, I don't think it's a good movie. We will talk about its problems at length. But all of this, I feel like it's so hyperbolic. With like, it's the worst movie of the year. Granted, it is my worst reviewed horror movie of the year so far. But I just, this isn't like hot garbage heap movie for me, you know?
Well, yeah. And I think one of the big important things to put into context when you're talking about these kinds of things is, are we talking about big studio released horror films? Because that's going to be a very different conversation than if we're talking about VOD streaming horror compared to like indie where it's like you've never even heard of it and then it just kind of shows up on iTunes. Like, these require different levels of criteria when we're talking about good and bad. So just to put it on the table, I'm saying that this is the worst horror film of the year for me. May end up making that list at the end, but I'm talking about theatrically released horror films.
I mean, on a level, I get what you're saying, because it's like, well, a big studio film has X, X, and X resources at its disposal, whereas an indie film doesn't have those things. So you might look at an indie film or a VOD film with a more forgiving eye, because you're like, well, you know, it's like, oh, if you're at a restaurant and there's a waiter and they're having a bad day and you're getting bad service, but you can they're like, oh, like my girlfriend dumped me. Okay, you're gonna cut them some slack. But if it's a waiter from a 5-star restaurant, you're not gonna give that person some slack because they're trained and paid to like do better.
Yeah, if it's a 5-star Michelin restaurant versus like a mom and pop versus a chain or something like that, like you're gonna go in with different levels of expectations.
I guess.
I guess the thing to remember with this particular film is that, yes, it is a mainstream film, but it also still only has a $7 million budget. But at the end of the day, the biggest issues that I had with this film are not that it looks bad. Like, I found it looked bland because it was just kind of so much of the same.
Right.
But it's not as though, you know, the special effects are unconvincing, or it's not like I thought, oh, they shot this on a green screen and then they tried to tell me it was an island. Like, they shot it on Fiji and it looks like Fiji. And
these actors are all having a vacation.
Yeah, which is probably why they all did it.
Oh, it's the Ocean's 12 of horror movies. I mean, again, I use the term horror loosely because this movie doesn't really become a horror movie until the last, like, 30 minutes.
This movie doesn't even know what it is. Like, it doesn't know what genre it's operating in.
It doesn't, but that didn't bother me that much. But the thing with the budget is, and you know, you can make an excuse for the budget, or I can, but here's the thing. You cut out 20 minutes from this movie, and then you can distribute the money used for those 20 minutes elsewhere.
Yeah, I want some kind of behind-the-scenes explanation for this, because who watches this movie and says, yeah, there doesn't need to be further edits, or like, we could trim some of these bullshit fantasies up. Like, how come 2 of the 4 fantasies are boring as fuck?
Wait, okay, so obviously one of them is the brothers, right? That's one of your boring ones?
To be honest, I actually find 3 of the 4 fantasies very boring, but I feel like Gwen's is kind of like the least substantial, but it's also the most important for the plot. Like,
Yeah.
Gwen is important, Melanie is important. The army dude, yeah, he looks good, but like, who gives a fuck about his goddamn dad?
Yeah, who, by the way, though, played by Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Mike Vogel.
Mike Vogel, who's not even referenced on the IMDb page or maybe the IMDb page, but not the Wikipedia page right now.
Well, I saw him pop up in the credits, in the opening credits, and I was like, what the fuck? Mike Vogel's in this?
Yeah, like no clue until you see it. And part of me was like, oh, maybe other people don't know who Mike Vogel is, but like, who was the guy who played the army dude? He's not even a name brand.
Dude.
Switch the roles.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you cut out one of those 4, then boom, you have some extra money and maybe a less convoluted plot. Because, well, we'll get to it when we go through the plot. Because when the 2 fantasies intercept...
Who could care?
Well, but it's also like, what? Like...
Yeah.
So are we changing time? Like, what's happening? I did
Oh my
not
god,
understand.
don't even get me started on time. Fuck off. No, I did love that part where his dad, where they're creeping up on the mission. He's like, we gotta go to Guatemala. And then it's like, they cut to them and they're like advancing on the mansion with the pool. Like, oh, okay. So these island hallucination zombified things.
Which don't...
They're also
I still don't know what those are.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I
know.
just can't. I
know.
don't even know. What are we doing?
I get why you're angry about this, but for me, it's
having a stroke.
It's so absurdly dumb, and like, again, clearly the movie doesn't know the answer to these questions. So
No.
I guess maybe I do get why people are giving this 1 star out of 5, but for me, it's just like, it's so laughably bad that I'm just like, if it was 20 minutes shorter, it would be more entertaining, because again, I think the first half of this movie is, man, it does
it's
lag.
So boring.
Well, it's the pacing between going back and forth. They keep the same rotation of fantasies. It's like, you have Gwen, then you have the brothers, then army guy, then Melanie, then Gwen, then the brothers, then the army guy, then Melanie. It's the
And
same.
every time the movie starts to get interesting, let's cut and let's go to one of the other people's boring ass fantasies. Like, oh my god, who edited this movie? Because you have no sense of pacing.
And that makes it feel like episodes of a TV show for the first half, because it's very episodic. But yet, 2 or 3 maybe of these stories are not interesting.
No. Like, I can't believe that they put pen to paper or fingers to keyboards. Like, they even comment on it in the fucking screenplay where Michael Pena's character, Mr. Rourke, says, oh, most people have really boring fantasies. It's a lot of sex stuff. And then they don't even give you, really, the sex stuff. They give you a little bit.
Because this is a PG-13 movie, and it is severely hampered by that rating. And again, with this in Black Christmas, it's like, what the fuck are y'all doing, Blumhouse? Oh.
We're skirting the R rating by giving you zombie creatures with black eyes, and we clearly purchased that black goo at like a 2-for-1 rate.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, so here's your black goo, Black Christmas, and then here's your black goo, Fantasy Island.
So I have one question for you before we get into the plot summary. So this director, Jeff Wadlow, is not a good director, but his most notable contributions to horror are the early 2000s movie Cry Wolf and the 2 years ago movie Truth or Dare that also stars Lucy Hale.
Right.
That movie is also a Blumhouse production, but you gave it a 3 out of 5.
I did, and you know why? Because Truth or Dare gave me everything that you're talking about with this movie.
Yeah.
It's dumb, but it's actually fun. The kills are kind of good. The creepy giant smiles when people go into their like hallucinatory fugue states when they're being told to pick a truth or a dare, that actually worked for me. And then you warned me in advance, I think, but the nihilism of that twist ending is like, this movie. Like, it's not a good movie, but that movie was actually pretty entertaining. Like, I put it on par with Countdown from last year, where they're not good movies, but at least they're competent and they're brisk. Like, they get in and out, they've got a couple of good kills, they've got some decent moments, and then they're done.
I agree, and I think that's a better movie than this one. And I mean, again, neither are good, but they're both entertaining. But you want to talk about fucking Blumhouse cleaning house? Holy shit! That movie, Truth or Dare, made for a budget of $3.5 million. It made $41 million domestically and $53 million overseas for a worldwide total of $95 million.
Yeah, I'm legitimately surprised that we haven't gotten a sequel to that.
I am too. But, everyone, there is a queer element in that movie, so we actually will cover that at some point on the main feed.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a queer element in this film as well, Trey. So maybe Jeff Wadlow is like a big old homo.
Maybe he is, or one of the 3 screenwriters on this movie. Which, he might be one of them. I actually didn't even check.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is!
A screenwriter. He is. Actually, I think it's the same writing team as the people who wrote Truth or Dare.
Holy fuck. Oh my god. I'm looking it up now. Yes, except there was one additional screenwriter on Truth or Dare, because that movie had 4. But yes, the 3 on Fantasy Island all helped on Truth or Dare.
Yeah, it's one woman and then
2 guys.
Another guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but the Truth or Dare also had the additional credit of Michael Rice, who is only known for writing on the TV show Boston Legal. That's his major credit. Oh, and Digimon the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Anyway, okay, back to Fantasy Island. I guess let's just dive into this quote-unquote movie.
Yeah, okay. So I've got a bit of a plot recap. As always, feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
So after a pretty bland cold open of a woman, we don't know her name, so I'm not going to name her yet.
Okay, but like...
If you know anything about this fucking movie, or you've watched a trailer, you already know that it's Sloane, played by Portia Doubleday. Yes.
Okay, I love Portia Doubleday. She is the only good thing about that Carrie remake from 2013. And she's really good at Mr. Robot.
Yeah, she is. And this movie has no idea what to do with her.
No.
Yeah. So it's a bland cold open of her being chased and then apprehended in a house. And then we get the proper opening. So Fantasy Island opens with 5 contest winners arriving at a tropical island by plane. They are Regretful Gwen Olsen, played by Maggie Q.
Queen Maggie Q.
She looks very skinny in this movie to me. I know she's always skinny, but...
she has not aged a day since Nikita.
No.
So
no, she looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they dressed her better, but whatever.
And, I mean... Again, I get what you're saying about her storyline not being that compelling because, family.
Yeah.
But she made me care about her in those scenes.
Oh, yeah, because Maggie Q is actually acting in this movie. She is actually trying. She and Lucy Hale are trying to make this work.
Look, hey, that's it.
God
Lucy
bless
Hale.
them.
Lucy Hale picks some bad movies, but like if anyone's watched Pretty Little Liars, which is a soap opera, but very credited, like it indents a lot to horror. It does a lot with horror genre and tropes.
Mm-hmm.
She's good. I think she's great, and that she keeps picking these shitty ass movies. I'm like, God damn it, Lucy.
I think Blumhouse must have something on her.
They got her nudes.
Yeah, basically. We're going to release them Truth or Dare style if you don't continue to make shitty low-budget horror movies with us.
Yes!
Okay. Yes, we also have buff wannabe army man Patrick Sullivan, who is played by something called Austin Stowell.
I have no idea.
I mean... He's got a great jaw. The brief glimpse of chest was good, but I got that from the trailers.
Yeah.
I was like, are you really going to have this guy and not give us more
excuse me,
yada?
He was known for his roles in Dolphin Tale and its sequel Dolphin Tale 2.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Those sound like Christian bullshit movies.
I know.
No, actually, you know what? I think those are motherfucking Christian bullshit movies.
They might be, but Ashley Judd's in them. But he's also in Whiplash and Bridge of Spies and Colossal. You know who he is?
Who?
He's the husband in Swallow.
Okay, you know what? I take it back. He is actually good. He is just not good in this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's given nothing to do. Like, he had nothing to do.
He looks so vacant. That was my problem. He just constantly looks like he is being directed by a PA to please go over to the right. Okay, Talk to your dad. Okay, hold this gun. Come on, buddy. You got to give us a little more.
It's very silly. Also, this Wikipedia summary for Fantasy Island has grown exponentially since yesterday, by the way.
Oh, good. At the point when I was using it to remind myself what happened, it was still littered with inaccuracies. So
it's like 7 paragraphs right now.
Yeah. My recap is not quite that long.
Yeah.
We also have party-obsessed stepbrothers JD, who is played by Ryan Hansen from Veronica Mars and a bunch of web series where he stars as himself.
And the Friday the 13th remake.
Correct, yes. And then we have his stepbrother, Brax Weaver, who is played by Jimmy O. Yang, who is our secret queer, but not so secret.
Yeah, which
comes out fairly quickly.
He is known for Silicon Valley, which I've never seen.
Oh, yeah. I have also not. I'm familiar, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know what it is, but yeah, he's the main character from seasons 2 through 6, so basically the whole show.
Cool. And then our final member of this group is trauma survivor Melanie, who is played by Lucy Hale. So they are welcomed by new employee of the island, Julia, who is played by Paritza Fitzhenley. And then they eventually get drinks and a lot of exposition from island owner Mr. Rourke, played by Michael Pena, who could not fucking care about being in this movie. I saw somebody being like, what's with like the fat, sweaty guy? And I was like, you know what? We can say that he's disinterested. We can say that he doesn't care. I don't think that we need to comment on the fact that he is not
as skinny as Maggie Q.
Yeah, and I realize I did just comment on Maggie Q's looks, but it was mostly just because I'm frankly a little concerned for her health.
I remember like there was like you get ads on Instagram or something, but she was like a big thing, like a spokesperson for something that would like do something with your gut, because she had a gut issue for a long time where like I don't know what it was.
Oh, like an interior, like a gastro balancing? Yeah.
Yes. And so, but like, it affected her whole life, basically, even through filming Nikita. And like, this infomercial for this thing is like fucking 10 minutes long. Like, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I don't know what it was called, but I'm sure if you Google Maggie Q gut, like, there's something. But
I will not Google that.
But I think that once that was resolved for her, it probably, like, I mean, it probably affected her metabolism in like an insane way.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
To be a star and have to deal with that bullshit.
But yeah, so, okay, full disclosure, I have never seen an episode of Fantasy Island. I know what it is, but I've never seen it.
So I've seen a couple because my best friend watches a lot of old classic television. Mm-hmm. So typically what you would end up getting is two different storylines. So different guests arrive at the island and you would follow two different people. And sometimes the adventure would be romantic. Sometimes it would be, kind of like Maggie Q's, like you get a bit of a do-over opportunity where maybe they have flown in your ex-lover and you're set up on Temptation Island-y style dates.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there would be crime or drama or action, and people would like have guns, and there might be like maybe murder or something like that. So the formatting of these four individual fantasies is actually not that far off from what the original show is like, but it doesn't make a good movie. It worked as a serialized television show where you would just spend 42 minutes with, and really it's like 20 minutes with each of these characters because they're only on screen half the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the format that they tried to go with the movie is representative of the TV show, but it doesn't work as a film.
And lest y'all think that, like, this isn't a big deal, Fantasy Island was kind of a cultural phenomenon. It aired on ABC from 1977 to 1984, 152 episodes, 2 TV movies. Like, this was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually surprised they didn't... Oh, actually, no, there was a TV remake in the late 90s that lasted for, like, a season. And they tried to go darker with it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Malcolm McDowell was Rourke.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they often go with interesting kind of character actors to play Rourke, and then typically they go with a little person for tattoo.
Yeah.
Which is kind of offensive that they then picked a short Asian man. We'll get there.
Okay, I'm sorry, but super random. Wendy Shaw is like one of the main characters or main actresses in Fantasy Island, and she is the voice of Francine in American Dad, and that is kind of insane to me.
Okay. I mean, we talked about American Dad. I've watched a couple of episodes, so that doesn't do as much for me, but I'm glad it means something for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There we go.
Okay, so what you need to know about Fantasy Island in this version is that everybody gets only one fantasy, and they must all see it through to completion. And we learn later that this has a magical component, which is something that was not present in the other iterations of this story.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a magic rock.
Oh my god. It's like some new age fucking crystal shit.
I thought it was going to be aliens, to be honest.
I wanted it to be weird doppelgangery robots where they just had molds of human beings and then they would put like fake skin on top of them or something.
So you wanted like the Stepford Wives remake. Or I guess the Stepford Wives original. Or both.
Yeah. Or, you know what, to be honest, the number of times that Melanie talks about motherfucking VR Tupac video hologram shit, I was like, you know what, at the end of this movie, it probably will be holograms, or this will have all been like a simulator a la Star Trek.
She tries to sell her joke so hard in the first bit of this movie, and God bless her, but it doesn't work.
I kind of liked her as a bit of a floozy drunk bitch, though.
Oh, I did too. I'm just saying some of her jokes were not good.
Well, I mean, yeah. If the joke ain't good, sometimes it doesn't matter how good an actress you are.
What was funny is, though, so like the Tupac joke, because she mentions Tupac, and then they're like, well, what about this? Tupac.
Mm-hmm. That kind of worked for me.
Well, it did, but here's the thing. It's edited faster in the trailer, whereas in the movie, it's like the editing takes an extra beat before it actually cuts. And so it was funnier to me in the trailer than it was in the actual movie. The magic of editing, everyone.
Right. And also the magic of trailers. Stay tuned. We'll be talking about that in a future minisode.
Yes, but let's jump back on this plot.
Okay. So the next day, they all get separated and their fantasies begin. Melanie goes to the basement and she begins to torture her childhood bully, Sloane Madison, played by Portia Doubleday.
The girl from the cold open.
Yeah. Which, at this point, we immediately recognize, like, oh, okay, yeah, we've already seen this girl.
Yeah.
Gwen gets a do-over of the date when she rejected her boyfriend Alan, played by Robbie Jones. He proposed marriage to her and she turned him down, and they end up married, and they've got a mouthy 5-year-old, so her timeline is very confusing in comparison to other people's, because she goes to bed and wakes up and it's 5 years later.
That was very weird.
It's not handled well at all because, like, meanwhile, we've got Patrick who's on a secret mission. He basically signs up for the army and he gets put on his dead father's team. And this storyline is meant to be set back in the 70s or something.
Is it the 70s? I thought it was... Oh, no. It's the 90s because there is a line that is terrible. Oh, your days are confused.
Oh, it's like 26 years later or something?
Well, no, because it says, the guy goes, oh, your days are confused, just like that movie that came out last year.
Oh, fuck, right. Oh, my God.
So this is the 90s. I think it may be like the Gulf. No, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know. But yeah, so there's that. So they're in the 90s, but then also the brothers are in the 90s and they're have it all fantasy.
Yeah, so that's the final fantasy, which is basically just them partying at a motherfucking mansion, and this is where we get the revelation, that Brax is gay because they've got male models for him to sleep with, and then they've got female models for JD to sleep with. And these poor actors and actresses have to spend the entire film in bikinis and Speedos.
The one girl, when they have to run away from the cartel, and like it's just her titties just bouncing as they're running up the stairs, I was like, oh, this poor woman. Like, that looks so painful. I don't have breasts, but like that looks painful to me.
I can't help but think that even if this was shot over the course of, let's be generous and say that it was shot between 25 and 40 days, like an average low-budget Blumhouse feature, think of how much time that means you've got to spend in that motherfucking skimpy ass. I don't know. I mean, I know if you're an actor, that is your prerogative. You know what you're signing up for. But at the same time, these characters are not characters. They are literally just there to be objectified. And well, yes, I was like, hey, I like the cut of that Speedo. That guy looks good in it. It feels icky.
Well, yes, and the movie could have done something with that because the brothers are also very, like, materialistic and whatever caring about looks. It could have been a commentary on that and how it's their desire that, like, pushed that, but the movie isn't that deep.
No, the closest that we get is the one girl, Chastity, that JD sleeps with, and she's actually a very good listener. I could not care about this whole thing that the parents kicked out Brax because he was gay, and then they had to move in together, and then JD, he ended up breaking up with his girlfriend because he can't move on with his life. I was like, I don't care.
But see, this is the thing. If you cut out something, granted, if I was going to cut out any of these subplots, was it maybe the army guy, but it would either be the army guy or the brothers. But you are throwing us gays a bone with this tattoo story, and that's fine. But the problem is, like you just said, there's too much happening in this almost 2 hour movie that you can't even devote enough time to it. Like any sentimentality this movie tries to earn is only earned maybe by the Maggie Q character. Yeah. None of the others get that moment because there's not enough time to care.
No, not at all. Although I do think we should give a quick shout out to the fact that there is a lot of diverse casting in this movie, which I did appreciate. So we've got a queer character, we've got a Asian American actress in Maggie Q, and then we've got Michael Pena as a Hispanic man. I mean, I like that.
And Julie is a black actress. Maggie Q's boyfriend is a black man. I mean, yeah, it's super diverse, but
I mean, it doesn't make the movie better, but I was like, thank God we don't just have white people for days.
I agree with that.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the gay character in Truth or Dare is also Asian.
Yep.
So maybe they're... Man, I'm like going deep onto
Jeff
this
Wadlow's
conspiracy
got
theory.
a fetish.
Yes. Okay. So, shockingly, Trace, I know you are shocked. These fantasies are revealed to be nightmares.
Oh, I had no idea.
I never would have expected. So, the party mansion is taken hostage at gunpoint by men en masse, and this looks like hot garbage.
Also, the leader is played by Kim Coates, who I know from Sons of Anarchy, sporting this weird accent.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. I'm sure someone can tell us, but I don't know. I mean, they're supposed to be in Venezuela, so maybe it was a Venezuelan accent.
Oh, God. That's... I walk back my talk about diversity in casting because that's offensive, if so.
Yeah, also because Kim Coates is Canadian-American.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Patrick realizes that his whole storyline is that his dad will have to die in order for, like, the future to happen, which is like, it's a fantasy. Who cares?
But that's the thing. So there is a point where Rourke says, well, enjoy it while you can, meaning that the fantasy will not, like, have any lasting effect on your life. But then sometimes there are times where you're like, oh, are they changing the past? I don't...
Oh, particularly
I don't know.
in this storyline, like, if his dad doesn't die, does that mean that his entire future will be rewritten? And the film seems to be suggesting that the answer is yes.
Well, because the end of this movie with Ryan Hansen makes that possible.
Which also doesn't make any sense, because it suggests that the island's fantasies can literally go off and have complete lives.
And they request that you stay on the island forever just because plot.
Oh, yeah. Just because. Literally, so much of this movie is just because.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Melanie realizing that Sloane is not a hologram, and she has to rescue her from a laughable impersonation from Hostel.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Torture. You mean?
Fuck off.
Well, because she said Dr. Torture was a therapist, but I'm like, this isn't a therapist. Yeah. This legit is a torturer. So,
yes.
Was she, like, in a mental institution? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
Oh my god, I can't even speculate because I don't know what the thought process is behind this character. Because he's also revealed to have his lips sewn shut.
Yeah.
Why?
I have no idea. And she doesn't seem surprised by that fact. And I guess we'll discuss this scene more when the twist comes out later, but this scene makes
no sense in hindsight.
No sense. It makes no fucking... Even with her throwaway, like, oh, I had to earn, like, your respect or something line, it doesn't make sense as to why she's acting the way she is behind the mirror when she can't even see her.
Nope. Not at all.
No one is watching her, and even if Rourke is watching her, Rourke knows what's going on. So
yeah, Rourke is already into this. He's already given her fucking wish. That's why all these other people are here.
That's why this twist, even though it's funny as fuck, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And it's insulting to anyone's intelligence who has been paying attention to this movie. Which, if you haven't been, I understand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you fell asleep for long stretches and then woke up and were still able to mostly follow, good job, you.
I was trying to look up this filming times, too, by the way. It doesn't say when it was filmed, but there were reshoots done last July.
I mean, there's often reshoots on most movies, but at the same time... Now I'm even more curious.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, with the hack job of editing this is, like, you wonder if they had to shoot more things to make things more clear, or if they actually added full scenes, or, I don't know.
They certainly didn't add more gore or, like, action, because it ain't in here.
No.
Or maybe they think that the action that's exciting for us is watching the hostages stuff in the party.
Ooh, that's a mistake.
That's... you misjudge. And then, of course, the sort of remotely interesting thing, not the family stuff, but when Gwen realizes that the fantasies are real, that's when she tries to get a do-over from Rourke so that she can have a fantasy of rescuing her former neighbor, Nick Taylor, played by Evan Evagora, who she accidentally killed in a fire.
This sequence from her realizing, she wants to switch fantasies, and then Julia saying, well, you don't want to actually switch fantasies, it's the same fantasy, you were given the wrong fantasy for what you were wanting. I actually did like all of this. This felt like it was well paced. There was some suspense going on. Maggie Q was just delivering everything I needed from her.
Well, it felt like it was actually leading to something, right?
Right.
And I was on board all the way up to the point where she passes out and then Julia rescues her.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of feels like they drop it until they need to bring it back up at the end.
So, well, and here's the thing, too. The moment when she sees the brothers running down the stairs, obviously that's when you're like, oh, they're all connected.
Yes.
Here's my thing. This twist of the fire is the same fucking twist from Saw 5.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, my God.
Because, I mean, not the exact same twist, because in that movie, it's like, oh, a fire happens and they all covered it up, and that's why they're all in the game together.
Which, P.S., is a better fucking storyline than, we were all tangentially connected to this one person, but not really.
It also doesn't make sense, like, okay, how Lucy Hale learns about all their involvement. I mean, maybe the brothers, sure, because they're roommates, but, like, how did she put all this together?
Oh, particularly with Patrick. How would you know that he said, no, let's wait for the fire trucks? And it was too late.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. Moving forward. So really, at this point, I'm just going to kind of cut down on some of the fat, because really, the only stories that matter are Melanie and Gwen's. So... So Melanie and Sloane escape into the woods. This is where they meet up with Michael Rooker's character Damon, and I made a joke here in my notes that says he is sporting Woody Harrelson's wig from Venom.
I wonder if they called him Damon as a reference to Damon Lindelof, who created Lost.
Oh, God. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of clever, and on the other hand, I just groaned and died a little bit inside.
This character is not needed in this movie.
The worst.
It's not even that he's bad, but it's like he's given this subplot that he dumps in. Also, yes, the exposition dumps in this movie are insanely bad.
Let me tell you about my daughter. No, please don't.
Or going back to our Scream 2 episode when, Gail locks the door and there's no lock and she says, fuck, but she doesn't say there was no lock. When Maggie Q is going to her room to, like, save Nick, but she goes to her apartment first and she's opening a cabinet and she goes, I have to find something to break down the door, to herself.
Yeah. Where's the fire extinguisher?
But it's so that because again, I'm sure some people are like, why are you going into your apartment? He's upstairs. So they had to insert this line of her saying this so that we knew, oh, that's why she's in her apartment.
Oh, yeah. This movie thinks that we are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Except that the problem is that the screenplay is stupid and it therefore needs to over-explain itself at every possible
single time. Honestly, the Dazed and Confused line is what really, I laughed out loud when they said that.
And you just know that they probably were high-fiving each other in the writer's room thinking, this is how we're going to subtly cue people that were in a different, decade, guys.
Also, though, okay, I know that Dazed and Confused is, a cultural milestone for American cinema. I don't think it's a movie that is that well known among, the masses, Or at least, people wouldn't be able to be like, oh, yeah, that's that 90s movie. Because, I don't know. Maybe I'm, not giving people enough credit.
It could be over under, maybe. I mean, it is very well known. I don't know if it would help people to immediately identify the year. They might be like, oh, is that 80s? Is that early 90s? I can't recall.
But that movie's set in the 70s, but made in the 90s. Which is
the problem, yeah. Which I think is why I said, oh, this sequence is set in the 70s, because I remember the Dazed and Confused line.
You'd be better off being like, oh, look at Dumb and Dumber over there,
Right, yeah. I mean, if you've got to do it, then...
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so they meet up with Damon. He is an undercover agent investigating the island. Who could care? He shows them the source of the island's power. It's a fucking crystal that's hidden in an underground cave system, and it reflects people's greatest desire. I got out a gun and shot myself in the face.
How upset are you that we don't get any, Chekhov sea snakes action here?
Why? Why is that even in there?
Why?
It's tension in a film that doesn't have any.
Okay, you have one shot at the end of the movie with this, you can see the snake swimming around Patrick, and it's cool, we're gonna get some snake attack.
Mm-hmm. No, it's his dad.
Why is there not a snake attack in this movie, or a death in this movie? Also,
or have those snakes turn into something like his dad,
like a snake monster dad.
Yeah. Once again, we are rewriting this, and it sounds better.
Again, y'all, a 30-minute meeting. Just have a come to Jesus moment. It doesn't just do that.
Look, we're available for bar mitzvahs, and we also rewrite horror screenplays.
Clearly.
Yeah. So, so they get all this bullshit, and they're like, cool, let's get a telephone number so that we can call somebody and get off this island with proof with this magical water bullshit. Oh, also Damon sacrifices himself by throwing himself and also Dr. Torture off a cliff so that the girls can survive.
The water thing, too. Like, they have to drink the water from the rock that's also dripping around the entire premises of the island in order for their fantasies to interact. Like, for the rock to project their fantasies into them or whatever.
I'm not gonna lie, there's some weird, icky bullshit around, like, cult connotations here. Like, you've got to drink the water in order to get on board.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, don't do that.
I mean, again, if y'all want to talk kitchen sink approach, this is the movie.
Yeah, just anything we could think of. We managed to cram it in here.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of, let's go back to Gwen. She fails to rescue Nick. She's dragged out to safety by Julia. This is where everybody kind of meets back up at the hotel. So she meets Sloane and Melanie. Nobody bats a fucking eye at the presence of this random Sloane girl.
Yep.
Despite the fact that Melanie talked a big game about how she was there to torture a high school bully.
Well, and
at this point, it's already been addressed.
Yeah, because Damon tells her, and like Sloane gets all pissy, and it's like, well, you did torture this bitch.
Mm-hmm.
But then Melanie doesn't really do enough to like fight
no.
back. But again, because it's all an act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's playing a long con the entire fucking movie.
But that's the thing, though. Here's my question. She does get 2 fantasies in this movie. Why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she gets a fantasy where everybody is here, unless it's the most elaborate fantasy that she gets to play out a fantasy, and then they get to die.
That's like the loophole is like, I want to kill everyone that helped murder Nick and, destroyed my self-worth. But I also have to be in them, like, also doing a fantasy of my own, but it's not... I'm lost.
Couldn't they have even given her a line that says, my fantasy was to see you suffer and then die?
Or, like, see my tormentors suffer. If she viewed all of them as her tormentors for various reasons, like, that would maybe make sense. Or, if you just fucking have Sloane be the one to start the fire. I don't know.
Oh my god. The tie-in connection of Sloane to all of this is so bullshit.
She should have been killed, to be honest. And maybe if they cast someone besides Portia Doubleday, that would have happened. But whatever.
Yeah. So Sloane, Melanie, and then we also meet up with Patrick and Brax, and they are the sole survivors. Because I'm not going through all of the shit that happens at the mansion.
No.
All you need to know is that JD and Patrick's dad are both dead. And that at this point, we've begun to see people reanimating with the black goo from Black Christmas.
And so it's like zombies, but oh my god, it is.
Yeah.
What? Did they all operate
bad.
on the same set? Did they shoot Black Christmas in Fiji? I think they actually shot it in like New Zealand. But
yeah,
still, oh my god, that is nuts.
Literally, when it started to happen on the screen, I was like, wait, so 2 Blumhouse productions that are coming out less than 2 months apart are using identical visual aesthetics for their monsters? What the fuck is happening?
So
and even
weird.
like the stupid bust in Black Christmas looks and is treated visually the exact same way as the godforsaken crystal in this movie. Honestly, Trace, this is when I was like, what is happening with this movie? This movie is so fucking bad.
And see, you're getting angry, and I get it. I am just sitting here like cackling like a madman at the end of the tune on screen. It's just so funny. And yeah, okay, sorry, continue. This is just hilarious to me.
Okay, so the 4 of them decide that they have to use the sole remaining Chekhov's grenade to blow up the crystal, so they make their way back to the fucking cave. Because it's the whole part of this movie is like, we just go from one location to the next, and then back again, and then back again.
Yes. Well, yeah, this is like, oh, we have to go back, and it takes 5 seconds, when it took all night the night before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically Game of Thrones, the change from season 5 to season 6. All of a sudden, we can get everywhere in the space of one cut now.
Yep, that's it. That's all it takes.
So while they're in the cave, we also get a bullshit extended sequence where everybody gets to face off against their zombified illusion of their own fear or fantasy, and it goes on forever.
So, okay, another plot hole, maybe. So Portia Doubleday gets her doppelganger, her evil inner self, of like, this is the real you. But she hasn't drank the water yet.
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense. She should literally just be able to stroll through all this bullshit because she has not been affected by the island.
If anything, it would make more sense for Lucy Hale's reveal to come out earlier and have her have the doppelganger of her true inner self.
Right? That would have actually provided some emotional depth to this.
Yeah, and be like a martyrs type creature monster because her inner self is ugly as fuck.
Yes, and for more on that, listen to Martyrs when it comes out in a couple of days.
Well, tomorrow.
Yeah. I will say, unfortunately, of all of these sequences, though, my favorite was Portia Doubleday facing off against herself. Because I think it's the most visually interesting thing that this film is doing.
Well, and it has fun with sound design, because like the doppelganger can like crawl up on the walls. There's really good sound design that kind of sounds like clickers, like the creatures from The Descent or something.
Yeah.
It's really cool, but again, it doesn't make any sense.
No. Which is literally, I think, if we were a fly on the wall of the writer's room, looks really cool. Oh, but it doesn't make... I don't care.
Well, and so then we have like the sea snakes with Patrick, and then his dad attacks him, which... I don't care.
No.
Gwen comes across her fake daughter killing her fake husband, which is fine, I guess. But again...
this child actor did not do it for me.
Well, I mean, because they hinted it earlier when the daughter's like, I want daddy to hit me. Oh, not me? No, you know why. Because, it's her residual guilt from starting the fire. And that is kind of in play here, but it's like...
Is it? Then, because you just had to explain it for me to understand.
Yeah. And then does Brax / Tattoo... Does he have anything?
I think he gets lured away by JD, but it comes to nothing. Like, he just shows back up later.
Yeah, no, because JD is like, it should have been you that died. Mom and Dad don't even love you because you're gay, blah, 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 blah.
Which I love that is basically the defining element of his character. I mean, I appreciate the inclusion, but literally his storyline is, I had to die because we had to come to this island because our parents don't love you because you're gay.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, is something that does... I mean, not the fantasy island part, but like... but no, it's something that does happen. And like you, I appreciate the inclusion, but again, the problem is the movie doesn't devote enough time to this to really flesh it out to make anyone care. So anyone who isn't a fan of gay people in general, this movie is not going to change any minds.
Oh, no. And these two characters are kind of assholes for a lot of the film. So I don't care about their emotional journey in the same way that I do about, say, Gwen, who I also barely care about, just to clarify.
Well, and here's the thing. You get rid of the Ryan Hansen character, and you make Brax's thing just about, like, whatever fantasy, like he wants his parents to love him or something. That makes sense. You do that, and you cut out all this fucking bullshit with the cartel. You cut out JD's obnoxious... Granted, even though JD is an obnoxious character, like, I at least bought the dynamic and the brotherly love between them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think part of it is that Ryan Hansen is an inherently likable asshole.
Yes, 100%. If you've seen Veronica Mars, you know what we're talking about.
Even in, I think, Friday the 13th, the remake.
Oh, absolutely. And he dies way too quickly in that movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I recognize that we say this because we like these people, right? Like, we like Lucy Hale. We like Maggie Q. We like Ryan Hansen, which is just all the more mystifying then that I dislike this movie to such a degree because it's doing a bunch of things that I should be liking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is the point. Honestly, from Gwen's fire scene on, which I'm pretty sure is just past the hour mark of this movie.
Holy fuck.
I was aboard for the roller coaster ride of stupid that this was taking me on.
I'm sorry, you were aboard or aboard?
I was aboard, all aboard, like a train. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of that fucking joke. But I understand why all of this doesn't work, but I was just kind of like so excited to see what the fuck stupid thing they were going to do next that I wasn't bothered by how terrible it was.
See, I didn't think it was actually building to anything. I thought that they were going to get to the crystal and blow it up. But no. Okay,
but
so
no!
Let's do it. Let's do it. People, the secret truth of this movie. Melanie is revealed to be the perpetrator of the entire ruse. Her fantasy was to kill those she deemed responsible for Nick's death. So, let's go through it. Gwen is the woman who accidentally started the fire. The details are not really clear. She left a kettle on, and it somehow burned down several floors of an apartment building.
Well, she left the kettle on, but left.
Yeah, so Patrick was the policeman who didn't want to help. He wanted to wait for the fire trucks, despite the fact that people knew that there was somebody still inside the building.
Yep.
Okay, sure, whatever. JD and Brax were Nick's roommates, and they left for the night, but they thought that he had already left, so they didn't realize that he was still in the building.
And Sloane has nothing to do with this.
No, Sloane is exactly who Sloane was presented as the beginning. She is the girl who poisoned Melanie's self-esteem and caused her to, like, self-harm and withdraw from society. So at this point, it's revealed that Melanie was actually planning to date Nick.
But wait. Maybe that's the point. Maybe, I mean, I'm stretching to make this work. Had Sloane never tortured or bullied Melanie, Melanie wouldn't have had such low self-esteem to where she felt like Nick was the only person who cared about her. And had she not felt that, then his death wouldn't have been that big of a deal, and then she wouldn't be doing all this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the implication that, yes, Sloane's bullying hurt Melanie to such a degree that she was having difficulty connecting with people. That all makes sense for me. But then you get this. So Melanie literally had a meet cute with this fucking guy, and then she was due to go on a first date with him the night of the fire, and she didn't go because of Sloane.
I think it was a second date.
I mean, first or second date.
Yeah.
This movie wants us to believe that she is willing to kill all of these people, go through this elaborate ruse where she has to pretend to not be bothered by the presence of all of these people because she thought that she was in love with someone that she had had 1 to 2 dates with.
So, yes, the implications of this twist ending is not good. They're not good. I am not a fan of this bullied person becoming a psychotrope. And I actually had someone reply to me on Twitter that said that, I didn't mind that because there are people actually like that. Which, I understand that. The problem is, unless you're making a documentary, I don't think it's good to put that message in your, big budget, whatever, your big studio film going to theaters for the masses to see, because that just perpetuates a stereotype that if you are bullied, you'll go crazy and then become a murderous Lucy Hale.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is the other side of the knife if you're thinking about a lot of the conversations that we've had about queer people who, are made to cross-dress at a young age and then they grow up to become confused trans people who murder other people.
It parallels to the queer narrative, 100%, because... Yeah. Obviously, as we've discussed, queer people are bullied a lot, especially if you do present more like the opposite sex or gender.
Yeah.
And so, while I thought it was very funny that this twist exists, I don't like the fact that it's like, this girl who we really should be sympathizing for because she was bullied and tortured her entire childhood, we are now having to do an about face and hate her. But also, the bully gets away scot-free and even gets a redemption arc.
You bet your sweet ass she does.
For killing her!
Not only are they not willing to put in the time or energy to make us understand how important Nick's relationship is to her, like, it's really glanced over. Like, yeah, if Sloane hadn't hurt me, I might have been more open to falling in love with other people, but I wasn't. All I had was Nick, and therefore I want everybody to die.
Her thing is, like, the psycho stalker freak. Like, that's, like, what they call her in the movie. Or that's the nickname that Sloane gave her. But, like, it actually makes her a psycho stalker. Like, this is someone that's like, girl, you had 1 date with this guy? Maybe. And you are obsessed with him because he is the only person in your entire life, apparently, to show you kindness. That, I don't like what that perpetuates.
No, it's a dangerous stereotype. It's also just an undercooked motivation. Like, it's a double bad thing for this movie to do. And then, so let's get into what happens. So at this point, Gwen has implored Rourke to help them because he's also there. And he's all like, the island is keeping my dead wife Julia alive, so I have to keep doing its bidding. So he refuses to interfere until he realizes, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole.
Oh, right, because I forgot that's a thing. That's also happening when all this is happening.
So he then gives Gwen this, like, secret heads up, and she realizes that Sloane has not had a fantasy because, of course, she was only kidnapped for Melanie to torture. So at this point, she says, Sloane, you should make a wish. So she drinks the water that Damon had given her earlier.
But, okay, here's the thing. Lucy Hale is standing right there. Yep. And Sloane doesn't, like, take a quick swig. She, like, slowly raises the flask to her face, takes a long sip, and then goes. Like, Lucy Hale needs to tackle this bitch.
Doesn't she even have, like, a gun or something at this point?
Yes! Yeah. She needs to shoot her!
Yeah, she's literally just villain monologuing over on the side.
At this point, she's done and just watches her drink this stuff. Just watches her.
Oh, also, everyone's reaction to the revelation that this girl that they thought was being threatened with death and murder on this island the whole time, literally nothing. Everybody's just like, okay.
You're also forgetting because the reveal that, oh, it's someone else's fantasy that they're all involved in is revealed before they even get to the caves and is revealed with Lucy Hale in attendance. But she's like, I'm just going to wait until we get into the cave to make my big, to pull my mask off.
Yeah, because the whole time they think it's actually Julia and that Julia is like Nick's mother or some bullshit.
Because she's black.
I could fucking care. Okay, so Sloane, she gets her fantasy, which is to see Melanie get killed by Nick, who then drowns her in the fountain below the crystal.
Hold on. So it's actually that she can be with Nick forever. That is her fantasies. And of course, the island / black magic rock thing twists it into
Wishmaster bullshits this up into.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's this whole thing is monkey's paw stuff, you know, where you make a wish on the monkey's paw and it gives you a shitty thing, or like you said, Wishmaster. So Nick's burnt up corpse just drags her into this fountain, and happy ending for all, I guess, except for JD, who's dead, and Lucy Hale, who is also dead and does not get to relive her revenge.
And also Julia, who at this point has died because Rourke has reneged on his contract with the island.
Correct.
Yeah, so basically what we're left with is Sloane and Gwen. They get on the plane, they're about to leave, and then Rourke tells Brax that he actually also did not get his fantasy because the party mansion was JD's fantasy. So Brax then wishes for his brother to live a long life off the island, and then JD is reanimated on the plane. It's supposed to be super cute. So yeah, the brother who had apparently made sacrifices for his gay brother gets to go away scot-free. The woman who tortured a girl and prompted her to nearly commit 4 murders gets to go away scot-free. And then Gwen, who is the only legitimately good character, but also inadvertently caused a person's death.
Yep.
They all get to go away scot-free. And then Brax gets to stay on the island as an indentured gay servant, serving as tattoo, because it is revealed that his jokey tattoo, which has kind of been a thing throughout the movie.
Well, because he keeps calling him T. JD keeps calling him T. And yeah, it's because he has a tattoo that just says tattoo.
Yes, and of course, we're all meant to laugh because Tattoo is the name of the little person from the original series, and it's Rourke and Tattoo who run the island, so haha, this is now a prequel to the 1977 television series, and holy fuck, this movie is finally over.
The Wikipedia ends with blah, 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 initiating the 1977 television series events, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that as actually like being a legitimate prequel, but okay.
Well, or just setting up, it's the origin story of Fantasy Island in the event that they ever decide to make, God save us, sequels to this movie.
So, younger listeners, if you have ever seen the movie Deep Blue Sea, there is a part when Samuel Jackson gets off the plane and he's talking to the blonde lady Janice, and he's like, "Where's Tattoo?" She's like, "What?" And he goes, "De plane, boss, de plane!" And she doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, "I'm getting old." This is 1999, by the way. That is a reference to Fantasy Island.
Yeah. 22 years later, and now we are 21 years after that, still making motherfucking tattoo jokes. So, Trace, how do you feel about Fantasy Island? Do you still love it?
Okay, no, I am aware. I don't love it. I'm aware that it's a messy ass movie. I just think it's more fun and entertaining because of how stupid it all is and how none of it makes any sense. I enjoyed watching this movie. Definitely the second half is stronger than the first, because that first half is like bloated as fuck. So many things you can cut out. Literally cut out the cold open and cut out the Michael Rooker character entirely.
Yep.
And maybe cut out Ryan Hansen. Boom. You might have a better movie.
I think you could cut out the Patrick and the brother storyline. Like, would I be sad to miss some queer inclusion? Sure. But you know what? That storyline just doesn't do anything for me. The whole idea that we have to have these armed commandos storm the mansion so that we can then bring in the army guys and have the cleanup. I don't need any of that. We don't need zombified monsters with black goo coming out of their eyes, because also we never see them again after this.
That is correct. Minus, Ryan Hansen has like the black goo eyes, like when he's tormenting Tattoo. What you do is you have Lucy Hale's character, you have Gwen as the fire starter, you have Tattoo not only as living out his, parents accept me fantasy, but also as the roommate, but make it so that he actually did leave him.
Maybe he left him to go. No, I don't like that. I was going to say maybe he left him to go and have like his first gay experience, but then it's like that's a punishment
for being gay.
Being gay.
I mean, have it something like that where it's like doesn't completely like guiltify him, but like make it like understandable. And then with Patrick, I think you can make him a firefighter, but make his fantasy not this stupid war thing.
But here's the thing. You're still suggesting that this movie build up to a twist in which a person has brought all these people together so that they can murder them. It's funny because it's dumb, but it doesn't work, right? Like, if you wanted to make this movie right, you should just have it that they're like, oh my god, these fantasies have turned into nightmares. They've been polluted because we ourselves are making bad, unhealthy choices with our desires, and it should just be them trying to figure out a way to get off the island. Like, I fully expected that this movie was going to end with them becoming better people as a result of these fantasies, and them being like, you know what? We need to change the way that we're living our lives. And then they leave and get off the fucking island.
Sloane's redemption is like when she's in the plane talking to Gwen, and she's like, I was really terrible to that girl. And Gwen's like, you're a better person now. It's like, is she? She just killed her.
Newsflash, she is not.
Oh, we did skip over this part of the torture, but when her video uploads to Facebook of her cheating on her husband, I thought that was really funny too.
Admittedly, that whole section, I mean, I actually really enjoyed up until the stupid twist that makes no sense. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind the Melanie Sloan storyline. No, I actually think that we could have spent more time with it.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we're going into a question then of how did this get made? I'm sure this will be on that podcast one day.
Right.
Who saw this, read the script?
Who is this for?
Okay, no. Okay, so here's the thing, and I Megan Navarro wrote this in her review, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day, but I'm really not a fan of in-film reviews when someone says, who is this for? Because I don't care. I just need it to be like, if it works for me, that's fine.
Okay, I do want to just reference the fact that you wrote that in your Gretel and Hansel review, though.
Did I really?
You did. You said that this is a movie for children, and sometimes if it's not for you, that's okay.
No, but I wasn't saying who is this movie for, like, as a critique of, like, why does this exist? Who is it for?
Well, it's kind of the flip side. You're basically saying, I don't want to hear people say, who is this for, because it's for children.
Right, but I'm not using it as, like, a negative thing. Whereas, like, for this movie, it's like, oh, who is this for? Because it's a TV show adaptation, but, like, not made for people of the show, because it's not like the show. But it's not for younger people because they don't know what the show is, which I don't buy into that, because, again, you market it as a horror movie, even though it's not really a horror movie. It's for your horror audience. I don't know. I'm not in love with that as a critique of films. I think you could say, yeah, this is for this person, but you know what? I'm contradicting myself. I'm sorry.
I don't think that you're not making a valid argument. I think part of it is that, particularly when we see older properties that are being used as a recognizable IP, then the question becomes, are you trying to lure in the people who know what this IP is? Because you said it yourself, like, it's a joke in a 1999 movie, because the idea is that people don't know what Fantasy Island is then. So then we're making a remake even later than that, and we're still arguing that people do know enough about this. So part of it is just, what was the point of making this a Fantasy Island film, which then wants to go in a horror direction, but then refuses to go in a horror direction by not actually including very much horror? It's a very confused final product as a result.
I will buy that. It is a confused final product. And I didn't catch this, and maybe I did, but did the main title card say Blumhouse's Fantasy Island?
Gosh, I can't remember.
Okay, I think
so.
I think it did. And if I'm wrong, listeners, whatever, I'm wrong. But I think it did. And I wonder if there's some rights holder of the Fantasy Island property who saw this movie and was like, this is not my... It was like the equivalent of Alan Smithy, where they had to be like, you have to label it Blumhouse's to show that it is not in any way associated with the ABC television series.
I would love that. I feel like it would maybe start to clarify why they had to make certain artistic choices. I think that it's actually just Jason Blum having a big old hard-on to see his own name and production studio up there on the big screen. Like,
I agree.
We are such an established brand in horror. It's almost like when you see the title card where it's like, a film by so-and-so director, and you're like, I'm sorry, who are you? I don't know your name. You think you're so important, and you're actually just a narcissist.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I like the idea of taking a television series, and one that admittedly had a dark bent to it,
yes,
and making it a horror film.
Sure.
I feel like that was a big complaint when this was even announced. It's like, why are you taking this classic TV show and making it a horror movie? It's like, well, I mean, it may not have been
that's people who didn't know the show. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I think that's a cool idea. But yeah, the fact that this movie does, like, restrain itself so much, not just in terms of gore, but in terms of being a horror movie, period, I am very confused. Again, I still enjoyed and had fun with this movie, but I have questions for Jason Blum.
Jason Blum, I'd like you to take me out to lunch or drinks so that you can explain your rationale to me, sir.
I mean, you know, but like this isn't like a movie like Ouija where I'm like, oh god, it's just boring too.
See, this movie was just boring for me. I could not
fair.
believe that they couldn't come up with more interesting fantasies. The creative decisions about how they edited back and forth between the fantasies, I thought just stopped any kind of momentum in this film. So every time I maybe started to get invested, they would cut back to somebody else. And frankly, I really didn't care about 3 out of 4 of these fantasies.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
So by the time they all come together and things actually kind of start to pick up, I was so disinterested in what was happening. And then to do the, oh, it's Julia. Oh, no, actually, it's Melanie. And her rationale is bullshit.
I mean,
I was just like, I can't believe anyone associated with this didn't just say, you know what? No, we need to scrap this and go back to the drawing board because this is garbage.
I think it's because they wanted just like a whodunit, but the problem is you don't know you're watching a whodunit, and so I don't know. Like,
well, yeah, that's why I thought that they were all going to get redemption arcs and become better people by the end of this, because that's what this movie is selling us for the first hour and 10 minutes.
But the stupidity of Lucy Hale's reveal bothers me less than just the implications of what it says about people who are bullied. Like that to me is like that can do harm.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God it wasn't fucking the gay guy,
right?
Like, who was the secret bullied villain. Like, I mean, that's a good step, I guess. Instead, it's hottie Lucy Hale. But, yeah, I don't know.
I just think this is another one, and unfortunately, a long stream of not very good horror films that we've gotten this year. I think the other reason that I came down harder on it than, say, something like The Turning or The Grudge, which a lot of people have referenced as being the worst of the year, and they have gotten F cinema scores. This, I think, has a C.
C minus.
C minus. My thing is that those were films that had clearly troubled production histories. Yeah. They sat on shelves. They were tinkered with. They were fucked over by their respective studios. This film ain't got no justification there.
Yeah.
This was the film that they made, and they released it on time. There is no tragic backstory here.
Yeah. I mean, unless something's going on to Blumhouse, man, I don't
know.
I will say, even Blumhouse aside, like, I have been trying to defend some of these horror movies that are coming out this year and be like, hey, January and February, they're not just dump months. Sometimes we get good things.
Oh, yeah, we picked the worst fucking year to try to drop that January horror ain't so bad mini-sode, didn't we?
I'm, like, watching this, and we have not seen Brahms the Boy 2 yet, but I have had one person that has seen it, and they're mostly trustworthy, I think, but they've said it's garbage.
Yeah. We've heard good things about Invisible Man,
yes.
Which, spoiler alert, is a future full-length Patreon episode. So,
yes,
fingers fucking crossed for that.
Man, I hope so. I mean, because here's the thing. Okay, so January and February, we've gotten, let's see, how many? We've gotten The Grudge, Underwater, The Turning, Gretel and Hansel's the best one. This, Fantasy Island, and then we have The Boy 2, The Invisible Man, and in some markets we've got The Lodge, and that'll come out later in the month for everyone else. That's 8 horror movies.
Yeah, it's a lot.
3 of which most people agree are total shit garbage.
Yeah.
That's not great. And even the other ones, like, I mean, like, you and I were both lukewarm on Underwater. We both dug Gretel and Hansel.
Yep. I mean, it's not like the greatest horror film ever.
Right, but it's good.
Yeah, like, it's at least well made. It's actually trying to do something. It's being ambitious.
So, if we're led to believe that The Boy 2 does suck, and it does, that is 4 of the 8 movies that have come out in 2020 that are just garbage. What the fuck movies?
Yeah. And I mean, we are in the minority. We both seen The Lodge. We don't love it, but it's going to work for a good portion of people, and they're going to say, you know what, this is more on par with like the prestige elevated / quality horror that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike The Lodge, but I was very much not impressed with The Lodge, is how I'll put it.
I don't know. I know for sure that I was overhyped and I wanted to like it more, and then it left me cold.
The problem is, I need to rewatch it, but like I don't want to rewatch it because it's so slow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Basically, we're putting all of our hopes on The Invisible Man, which looks like it's going to be very well done, very well cast, and also, hopefully, quite scary and thrillery.
And your homework, hopefully you can do it, is, for you, not the listeners,
Oh.
is to watch Upgrade before it comes out.
Oh, right. I love how I keep getting homework assignments to watch previous films before new ones come out.
No, but just, I mean, because Lee Winnell directed Insidious 3 and then Upgrade. I think those are the only two films he's directed. Again, could be wrong. I'm not looking it up.
Sure.
But yeah, so that, I guess that's going to conclude Fantasy Island, right?
Yeah, we've gone a little bit long, but I feel like it was an important discussion to have, if only because this also is a good opportunity to summarize some of the feelings that we've had over the last, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep. Man. But on that note, I think we can cross out Fantasy Island.
Yes, and cross out Horror Queer's Patreon.
Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, home of creepy, disturbing, and terrifying creepypastas, SCP archives, weekly full cast storytelling, horror queers, genre commentary from an LGBTQ perspective, and the Boo Crew, for horror-centric interviews. Listen free wherever you stream audio and at bloodydisgusting.com/podcasts.
Hello, I'm Shelby Scott, the host of Scare You to Sleep, a podcast where I tell you spooky bedtime stories full of creepy sound effects and music that is soothing yet unsettling to help immerse you into a world of horror. This is a show for those of us who have realized horror can be a strange but relaxing escape from reality. Speaking of escapes, sometimes I lead you through guided nightmares, like a guided meditation, but instead of flowery meadows, I take you on a journey through your own personal nightmare. So come get lost in the terror with me. Listen to Scare You to Sleep wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm. Sweet screams.